Hey y'all, it's Anime Gamer, and today I am going to be reviewing episode 18 of Fruit Baskets. And I gotta say, this anime has just been on a flame streak lately with all these high quality episodes. Because, for one, from a story standpoint, this episode doesn't dilly-dally because it goes by quick, but simultaneously it doesn't feel rushed at the same time, which is hard to do. Because most animes, they either go too slow or they go too darn quick. And let me explain why. This episode introduces a conflict, which is a new Zodiac member, which is Kisa, gets introduced in this episode. And her conflict is that she hasn't spoken for a while. And what I like about this episode, it introduces that conflict in a cutesy manner, because at first it starts out with one of the Zodiac member with the white hair, which is his name slips my mind at times, but he shows up trying to look for Kisa, and then Kisa, when she meets Toru, bites Toru a bit hard, which was a funny sequence. And then afterwards, Toru learns about her circumstances, and then Kisa bites Toru again, but this time it's a bite that doesn't have force. And once Toru starts talking about how she herself was bullied in the past and how she tried to hide it from her mom, but then her mom found out someday, and then her mom wasn't angry at Toru for hiding it, that sequence had a lot of gravitas, for the reason being that we knew all this about Toru, that she was bullied in the past. And since the episode established that Kisa was being bullied, the moment where Kisa transformed into a human and hugs Toru was hell of adorable. So there were story bits like that in this episode that were done really well. And I like how as the episode progressed, you had Toru and Kisa spending time. And then in the latter half of the episode, you have Yuki explain to Kisa that Yuki himself was bullied in the past and all that, but in like a different way. And then he mentioned how when it comes to finding ways to love yourself, Yuki doesn't agree with trying to first find things about yourself that you love about yourself. He thinks it's more about to be able to love yourself. He feels that other people loving you is the step to being able to love yourself. And I like that perspective from Yuki. It's pretty unique, and it shows you the wisdom of his character. And simultaneously, I like how after Kisa hears this speech, she decides to speak again. And it was a reasonable reason for Kisa to start speaking again, because for one, she listened to someone that had a similar experience to her, because unlike Toru, Yuki is part of the Zodiac, so she would most likely be able to relate to Yuki a bit more regarding this situation. And it only led to a beautiful sequence when she started talking again, saying that she's going to try harder. She didn't necessarily say that, but I'm just paraphrasing. And then that other sequence, when in the finale of the episode, it caps off with her pretty much talking to Toru at the end, and then her finally deciding to go to school, and then with Yuki deciding to be the student council president. I thought those were wonderful ways of capping off this episode, because for one, it introduced conflict for Kisa, and it, for the most part, resolved it all in the span of a singular episode, while also tackling the smaller plot point with, at first, Yuki not wanting to be the student council president, then wanting to be that at the end. It actually tackled two plot points simultaneously, and that's why I thought this episode did well from a plot standpoint. The sequences were funny and adorable, while at the same time, things were being done in this episode to, at the very least, have some nice plot progression. And from a character standpoint, it did marvelously. I thought Kisa was a wonderful joy. She was a cool character. We got characterization in this episode where she was shy, but at the same time, she doesn't have much appreciation for herself, but then she slowly is starting to get some appreciation for herself near the end of the episode. So I like that. And additionally, I like how it showed her sweet side, how at the very least in the second portion, not in the second portion, but in the second time that she bites Toru and starts understanding her a bit more, she isn't as rough towards that person, showing off the type of personality where you're rough towards the stranger, but then afterwards, as you get to know him, you're not so rough anymore. So we got all these bits of characterization all in a singular episode, and that's what I felt made this episode really, really stand out. And additionally, Kisa's mom's was pretty cool too, how she cared about her daughter to a large extent. That was hella adorable. And I like the subversion of expectations, because at first it did make it seem like she didn't care about her daughter, but then we find out she really does. So that was sweet. And we get characterization for Yuki, because it pretty much implies that, yeah, Yuki before he met Toru didn't really like himself, because it was definitely implied when he mentioned that he doesn't believe in that whole you gotta find things about yourself in order to like yourself, because he mentioned that in order to like yourself, his perspective on that is you gotta have other people like you first before you can like yourself. And then he was thinking about Toru immediately in those flashes. So that's what I really got from that episode. And that sequence there really hit it home. And it really quantifies how much Toru changed Yuki too. How much he's changing everyone for the better. And that's another beautiful element in this episode that I really loved. And that's why I thought I did amazing from the character standpoint. Animation and art were beautiful as always. Voice performances were phenomenal, especially from Kisa's actress. Even though she only said a few lines, her lines were pretty nice. And the music was beautiful. And that's why I can wholeheartedly say this episode is 9 out of 10 worthy for me, and I cannot wait to see episode 19. So anyways, y'all, these are my thoughts on Fruit Basket episode 18. Be sure to comment down your thoughts on the episode in the comment section below. Be sure to rate the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later if you come back more. Alright, bye-bye, y'all.